Greetings and welcome back, Truth Seekers. It is I, your host, Athanasius, on the Athanasius Report. Tonight, an open letter to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. A recent Supreme Court ruling struck down Obama's amnesty, ruling with a lower appeals court saying that the president did not have the constitutional authority to rewrite immigration law. And because of this, a number of bishops on the USCCB, particularly those on the Immigration or Migrant Council, especially Bishop Eusebio Elizondo of the Archdiocese of Seattle, have made some disparaging comments about this ruling. In the case of Bishop Elizondo, he had said that, quote, millions of families will continue to live in fear of deportation without the immediate ability to improve their lives through education and good jobs. And then the Bishop of Las Cruces, New Mexico, Bishop Oscar Cantu, had a similar tone, calling the ruling sad. Also, Bishop Mark J. Seitz of El Paso. Today's ruling by the Supreme Court in the United States versus Texas eliminates those protections, shatters hopes for over 4 million migrants now at risk of deportation, and injects unnecessary fear and anxiety of separation of families across the United States. To these bishops, and to many more that I don't care to name in this letter here, but I'm sure that you know who you are and you share similar responses to the three mentioned here, I have to ask this very important question. Where is this level of concern for the quote-unquote migrants for the average American citizen? I have no doubt that organizations like Catholic Charities and some parishes are actively assisting the poorer citizens of our nation here, but it seems to me that not enough emphasis is put on helping those law-abiding citizens here in the United States, and more emphasis being put on the criminal lawbreakers who entered our country illegally and essentially are robbing our citizens of welfare, jobs, and so forth. Now, I understand what the first argument that a lot of you are going to make are, well, these people are trying to escape desperate situations and find a better life here within our country. Okay, understanding that. However, just because I am trying to escape poverty does not give me the right to break into your house and steal your stuff. In fact, I think that we could argue that the U.S. has very clear-cut laws about breaking and entering into private property. Now, if you're going to then say, well, those laws are not just, then I have to ask, why then has the Catholic Church for centuries, millennia even, acknowledged that countries have a fundamental right to protect its borders and to prevent people from coming in that they do not want? It seems to me that you are trying to cherry pick certain truths and doctrines that have been long held by the Catholic Church, and meanwhile brushing away others for the sake of quote-unquote love, mercy, or whatever other BS politically correct term that you want to throw out here. And I don't say this with any real disrespect, although I am disparaged by your comments, and that you would say that because of your comments, you are essentially saying that we Americans have no right to tell these people who have broken our laws, who have entered our country illegally, and who are taking our resources without really contributing back to leave. You are essentially saying that we are somehow the bad guys in this situation. And to you and everyone else that thinks like you, I have to say that the real bad guys are yourselves. And let me just go ahead and drop some figures for you to try to extrapolate my point here. So, according to the Census Bureau, migrants take about $517 billion in welfare a year. Now, why is this significant? Okay, other than the fact that it is a boatload of money. Well, according to the Center for Immigration Studies, over 50% of migrant families, that includes both legal immigrants, those that are coming through our immigration system trying to become citizens, or they have green cards or visas or so forth, take about 50% of our welfare. For illegal families, That is 71%. Now, compare that to those American citizens that are born here, I can't use Native Americans, but native-born Americans. Only 32% of households take welfare. And these figures are further corroborated on CNBC and USA Today in terms of the percentages. In 2013, which was the latest figure that I could find, there was one released for 2016, but I couldn't find it in time for this little video here. But in 2013, the Heritage Foundation found that immigrant families received about $24,721 of taxpayer money through various welfare programs. Meanwhile, they only contributed back $10,334. So what does that all mean? It means that we have a number of people that come over to our country, breaking our laws in the process, entering this country illegally, and then taking resources away from those taxpayers that are obeying the law and paying into the system as they are supposed to. So I ask you, where is the moral justification for that? This is essentially theft. They are essentially stealing from deserving American families, people who have lived here their whole lives, who are American citizens, and they are coming here, again, illegally. These immigrants that are coming from South America, from the Middle East, from Asia, from where it is that they're coming from, if they're not going through our immigration system, which we as a country have every right to set up and dictate who we want to let in and who we don't, then how is it that you can support thieves? How is it that you can use your moral authority to tell us that we are wrong when you are supporting thieves and robbers and people that do not care about our own laws? This is not an anti-Christian attitude here. Christ himself said, "Give to Caesar that which is Caesar's, and to God that which is God's." Immigration is not a universal right. It is something that countries can choose to allow or not allow. And in a previous video in which I excoriated a bishop down in St. Petersburg for saying similar things, I offered this example, and I'm going to offer it again. If you have a house, do you not have a moral right to say who can enter and not enter your home? If you say no, then why then do we have walls, windows with locks, doors with locks? Why don't we just have 4 pillars and a roof overhead and just let everybody come in? If you subscribe to that theory, then why don't you practice what you preach and actually bring the illegals into your own home instead of trying to push them off onto the rest of us? To further add to this point, how then do you justify a father's responsibility to protect his family, or a mother's to protect her children, or just a single person trying to protect their own life? If we are not supposed to live in a society that bars anybody from coming in, then why then does Catholic Church say that it is morally permissible for people to defend themselves? It's not just a matter of turning the other cheek. It's a matter of life and death, that by bringing people into our homes that we don't know, we run the risk of them causing us physical harm, or possibly even worse. It is not to say that every migrant that comes over here is going to cause us physical harm. However, there are a lot that are doing so. It is not being reported by the media, and it's certainly not being reported by people like you, but it does exist. How many Kate Steinleys have there been in the United States since we've not enforced our immigration laws? How many people are killed every year through illegal immigrants getting drunk and driving and crashing the cars into them? How many women are raped every year because migrants are coming in and being deported and then come right back and then commit the same crimes again? That the crimes could have been avoided if we had actually just enforced our borders and our immigration law and prevented these people from getting back in the first place. To say that there is no moral justification that to protect ourselves is to go against millennia of church law and tradition, saying that every person has a moral right and an obligation to defend not only themselves, but to people that they are responsible for. So for those that have a house, anybody that they welcome into their home, they are responsible for them, and they are responsible to their safety, to their well-being, and so forth. They look out for them. And likewise, the guest has a moral responsibility to not take advantage of their host and to also help out as needed. But this is not what is happening with illegal immigrants. They are coming in here unbeknownst to us, without our permission, and living off of our good graces while taking advantage of us. Call it whatever you want. It is not mercy. It is theft. Furthermore, it is the responsibility of the leaders of a country to enforce the laws that the country has on the books, especially if that means to deport people that should not be here illegally. Now, you wish us to go ahead and wave away those laws the way Obama tried to do and then got smacked down by the Supreme Court. But that doesn't make sense. It goes against the very fabric of society when you start allowing criminals to break laws and then go unpunished. So for those that are saying that families now have to live in fear about being deported, well, they shouldn't have been here in the first place. By coming in here illegally, you have thus broken our laws and thus should be subject to our judicial system. And if that means you get deported, then so be it. And don't feed this whole, oh, we're going to be splitting families up because their children are citizens and we can't, deport the children. Stop that. That is a straw man. That is a straw man argument. The truth of the matter is that if the family goes, so will the children. Okay, we're not going to be splitting up children and keeping the children here because they're quote unquote American citizens. Which even then, I highly doubt that they really are. The way the Constitution is written, there's no concept for what is called anchor babies, and these kids that come over here and the parents that bring them over here and give birth to them here does not automatically make them a citizen. So the whole basis for your argument of, loving and caring for the migrants here, I find very hypocritical because you're putting more emphasis helping criminals, helping those that are breaking not only our laws, but God's laws when it comes to stealing by taking our resources, lying by coming here under false pretenses, and then also staying here while trying to hide the fact that they should not be here in the first place. And at the same time, you excoriate us for standing up and speaking the truth. Shame on all of you. And for those like the Bishop of Seattle, Bishop Les Cruces, and so forth, you really need to recant your statements. It is sad to see men of your stature, men who should know better, men who should be more well-versed in the church, act the way that you do and say the things that you do. This is not about compassion. This is not about love for one neighbor. This is about right and wrong. I don't come over to your house, kick in your front door, or break through your window, squat on your couch, steal your food, drink your water, use your electricity, use your utilities, take money out of your pocket, and not expect to have you call the police and arrest me for breaking and entering and thievery. It is no different than a country. A country is nothing more than a home to its citizens. And when you sit here and promote this sort of behavior, it does nothing more than show that you are incapable of your duties as bishops, where you should know the difference between right and wrong. I can understand this argument coming from a sixth grader. I do not understand this coming from a bishop. You're putting your personal feelings, you're putting emotion ahead of what is right and wrong, fact, truth. And it is disgusting to see such behavior come from men of your stature. What you have said needs to be recanted. And if you refuse to recant it, then step down. You do not deserve to be a bishop. You do not deserve to be a successor of the apostles who stood up for the truth, who died willingly for the truth, because what you are doing is lying to your congregation when you put out statements like this. You are intentionally misguiding them, saying that this issue is a matter of compassion and love for your neighbor and not a matter of law. A nation has laws for a reason, It has laws to protect its citizens. If laws do not protect its citizens, then what good are they? And then why then should we not be allowed to do what we want? And also your behavior in approving of the thieving and the lying of these illegal immigrants coming into this country further diminishes your say and further leads people like myself to believe that you are nothing but a bunch of hypocrites and liars. You're a bunch of Pharisees, den of vipers. Please know that I do not say this with any sort of hatred towards you. This is strictly out of Christian love that I correct the ignorant and correct the wrongs that ignorant people like yourself have been spreading. So I hope that you will take what my message and that you will act accordingly and correct your mistakes. In Christ's peace I leave you.